Hello, Steve here. Welcome to Real Health. Who'd have thought health is about what we're eating? Join me on my quest to disseminate my go-to health regimen, the Health 44, my clumsy branding of eliminating 4 classes of food, introducing 4 classes of micronutrients. Bingo, bongo, health sorted. So thank you for your interest. Let's do this. Welcome again. So here we go. I was going to call this the top 5. Actually, I will call it the top 5 things, the top 5 ideas, the top 5 issues, top 5 anyway, that are leading to our ill health status. If I was to make it a top 10, number 6 through to 10 would be unranked, because, and I'm not sure, like number 6 to number 10 would be the final 5% of our elements. A few cherries on top of this particular cake. So just quickly, what would make it into the from 6 to 10 would be, I'm not sure to include, but people want to include EMF, those things that go into your arm, those things that, they jab into your arm, or people want to be jabbed with, also into your buttock as well. What else? They want to include trans fats, seed oils, and perhaps carbohydrates. Does that give you an indication? So was that 4 or 5? Anyway, or mold to round out 5 or 6. So, or mold should be a toxin exposure factor. So toxin exposure. So that would be the top 10. So at number 5, I'm not sure whether this should be number 4 or number 5, but I will, because let's face it, we're not really measuring things. We're measuring things in developed countries mainly, and but this is more of a humble, number 4 and 5 is more of a humble opinion, in my humble opinion. But number 1, 2, 3 that you'll see, many that have listened and viewed before probably will guess what my 1, 2, and 3 are. But number 5 is lack of sunlight. Lack of sunlight. We need ample amounts of vitamin D. We used to spend 80 to 90% of our time outside, so we had the microbes of the dark be part of our physiology, and the microbes of the day, and the day part is the sunshine. Yes, to make vitamin D, but I do believe that we do not understand how valuable sunlight is, apart from our fixation. Well, it's not a fixation, our understanding. We sort of understand, but we probably have more to go. We are not free to discover more about what sunlight does. And not just sunlight to enable, there's D2, D3, so vitamin D as a whole complex. The sunlight factor is quite important. And we need to understand that sunlight, we probably need to get a full spectrum of sunlight exposure from early morning to late afternoon and dusk. Some midday sun, good as well. Okay, so in a roundabout way, that's the explanation for number 5. Also, circadian rhythm setting and resetting is sunlight exposure directly in your eyes, not staring at the sun, sort of looking in the direction of the sun, and I need to look over the rim of my glasses. Okay? You won't get, if you're wearing sunglasses or spectacles, less with spectacles, but sunglasses will hamper the absorption of um, sunlight to make vitamin D. So you need to take those sunnies off. Wearing sunnies is a scourge. 90% of our, did I say that already? Because I've mentioned it quite often that 90% of our vitamin D uptake is abled through our eyes. So together with the vitamin D complex, which relates to the many of the micronutrients need different systems to be activated from sunlight. Okay, so sunlight, that's why it's important. And the whole circadian rhythm, sleep and whatnot, that's all sun-based. So that's number 5. Number 4, cholesterol. We have a pandemic of cholesterol deficiency. Okay. Very important for brain and hormone health. On the hormone side of things, infertility, the brain side of things, the mental health side of things, anxieties, phobias, amotivation, addictions, of the activity type, not the nutrient type. So our mental health epidemic could be cured with more cholesterol intake. Even though we can make cholesterol, we need to still take in cholesterol to have ample amounts of cholesterol. Okay. So for the opportunistic omnivores, the SAD, the standard American diet, and the standard Western diet people, with 50-60% processed food diet, which is laden with grain, and grains became part of our staple to increase shelf life of our foods back in the times of when there was no meat around. It was very hard to get produce. So grains became our staple. And to shore up our macros, our caloric availability, grains became our staple. Just like grains are important for cattle, to fatten up our cattle. So I'm not sure why I ended up on grains when I'm referencing cholesterol. Yes, that's the reason, because to get ample cholesterol, we need saturated fat. And I'm not sure how the vegetarians, or well, especially vegans, can get access to ample amounts of saturated fat. No. So the vegans are pretty much relying on mono and polyunsaturated fats through oils, seed oils, for those that are fixated on the whole seed oil thing. But I would say that all oils in a bottle are an issue. Perhaps oils should be in that number 6 to 10 area. So it's part of the Health 44. So maybe it does belong there. So this is an arbitrary ranking. Don't you know? Don't you realize already? But in my not so humble opinion, that's where it's at. Okay, so important for fertility and mental health is cholesterol, but cholesterol is very important in other physiological processes like caring for our arteries. I heard sometime that salt intake is cutting our arteries, and the cholesterol comes in and repairs it. So I'm not sure how we should understand and apply that sort of idea, but don't know. I didn't look into it further, but it pricked my ears a little bit. So cholesterol, number 4. Number 3, people will take a guess, the regulars. But number 3 is the micronutrients. I often, all the time, I suggest that micronutrients are our number 1. But you'll understand why I'm putting it at number 3. In that whole micronutrient complex, it's important that minerals are in ample supply and accessibility. But they'll become a problem once we get to number 2 and number 1, where we need to address those things. And already some of the regulars might suggest what number 2 and number 1 is. So as part of my Health 44, the second for the 44 is bringing in those 4 categories of micronutrients. There's 90 declared essential micronutrients. 60 of those are minerals. Most important, the most important. 16 vitamins, 12 amino acids, 2 essential fatty acids. And we need especially the minerals to make the vitamins, the amino acids, and the essential fatty acids to work, to activate in our physiology, and together with enzyme activity and all that sort of thing. So I've exhausted many a time on this podcast series that we are deficient of minerals around the earth, because especially the damming of our planet, 3 million dams there are, a million hydroelectric dams and 2 million irrigation type dams, which have pretty much mitigated all the seasonal flooding we used to get, which used to end up in those low-lying farmlands. That's why those farmlands, those most really fertile farmlands, like historically the Nile, was very fertile because the minerals got down there, and the plants were at least able to get NPK. That's all that plants need, crops need, to grow ample amounts of bushels per dollar invested in that. So minerals as part of the whole micronutrient complex is number 3. And that's where a deficiency of those micronutrients in different deficiencies or absence of causes our chronic diseases, our immune diseases, which are chronic diseases too. I'm not sure why we categorize them as autoimmune, because we see things, oh, your body's attacking itself, autoimmune. So it fell into that category. So those chronic diseases ended up as another category. Cancer is certainly a category, and you're not allowed to suggest how to cure cancer, but you can avoid cancer. I think it's still allowable to talk about avoidance of cancer, which is eat well, exercise, don't get in the sun, all that sort of thing. But no, get in the sun. I believe I believe you must get in the sun. We have also a vitamin D deficiency epidemic, which is code for we're deficient in many of the micronutrients that we do require. Okay, so that's that. micronutrients as part of the Health 44. Number 2, what should belong in number 2 for the regulars especially? Number 2 is absorption. Now the regulars will understand. Well, we need to absorb the micronutrients. We have a shortage, that's why the micronutrients and especially the minerals is at number 3. But at number 2, it's important to, even if we're ongoingly getting less micronutrients availability-wise, whatever's there, we need to absorb it. Okay, so absorption is the issue. And how do we absorb? Is recuperating the villi in our small intestine, which is damaged by gluten intake. Eating all the grains, ample amounts of grains, the half of our caloric intake at least in carbohydrate, which is laden with the complex carbohydrates, the starches, the grains. So even the whole grains complex, it's hampering our absorption of the micronutrients that are left in the world. And together with number 2 and number 3, with the micronutrients, we need daily supplementation these days, or we are stuffed, because it's impossible, it's not dependable to rely just on being for the carnivore and the keto people out there, and you can get everything as a vegan. All those tribes. We need to supplement to make it more dependable, ample amounts each day. To make it more dependable means, without supplementing, means more caloric intake, and that's not ideal either, even though a calorie isn't a calorie. I heard just the other day this distinguished scientist indicating that like if you eat 1,000 calories of a protein-based dish, food, steak, 25% of that is utilized into releasing all the amino acids and digesting and all that sort of thing with the protein. So that 1,000 calories of steak ends up being 750 on the body. Not sure how we can measure or substantiate that, but that was quite profound in the whole, is a calorie, where with carbs and simple sugars, it's instantaneous availability. And for those people that juice, don't juice, it's just crack. It's just liquid crack, liquid sugar going straight in without digestion and all that sort of thing. And also for those people that are aware of the whole GI complex, glycemic index, and there's the whole insulinemic index, which is starting to become a bit more prominent in measurements. If your high GI food intake is accompanied by fats and proteins, the GI index part, those values go down. And depending on heat and the cooking process as well. So it's not just such and such is 54 GI, such and such is bloody 75. And with the ultra processed foods, so some of the maltodextrin stuff, like you're looking at 120 plus GI index. So anyway, so there you go. That's number 2. Was that number 2? Absorption. So especially stopping the gluten proteins, and the big one is wheat, and there's barley, rye, and oats, and buckwheat should be included perhaps in there as well now. But together with the gluten grains, perhaps all grains, perhaps, which would bring us back down into a paleo way of life. But even with the paleos, they'll jump onto things like honey, raw honey, blueberries, strawberries to get their sugar fix. Oh, watermelon, sugar fix. Those modern day fruits are the risk benefit scale is way into the risk part of the high sugar content. We only got into eating fruits, vegetables, and then eventually grains is because we can't catch any, I don't know, deer or venison today. So how's that taste without dying? Oh yeah, that'll do, sort of thing. So that's probably how we got into grains and produce. And for those carnivores out there, I'm not pushing carnivore that much because it has its limitations. And let's face it, I was going to say our bullocks, our meats, our meat production from the cows and the pigs and the chickens and whatnot. I think, was it 90%? Was it 80 or 90% of the whole surface of the globe's farming lands is dedicated to producing grains for our cattle? Yeah, get that into you. So how about that? Okay, so recuperate our absorption by getting off grains, but especially the wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Buckwheat as well. So that over time, like give yourself at least 3 months, probably 18 months to 2 years if you're a bit more advanced in age, like 51-year-old here, you probably need at least a year to get great absorption. And I've never looked back once I've understood absorption and the evil of the glutens. Okay, so that's number 2. What comes in number 1? Only 1 or 2 will realize or narrow down my whole methodology. And number 1 is digestion. Digestion is the number 1 factor which is ailing our health, which is hampering, debilitating us, earlier death, earlier disease, birth defects as well. So the reason why digestion is number 1 is whatever micronutrients that even are available, we need to even digest what's even there. So that's why digestion is number 1. And to improve your digestion, the number 1 thing is stopping all your drinking. Be hydrated within outside 30 minutes pre-meals. Okay? And then you can't start drinking until 90 minutes post-meals to not dilute the gastric juices that must be acidic to digest your food, to release all those micronutrients, to then absorb, and then we've got the micronutrients in there. So that's the 1, 2, 3. And then the outsiders with cholesterol, sunlight, and then those others that make up the top 10 and 20 with the cherry on top. That's how I'm rolling. That's how I'm prescribing for the world. So, and the added factor to additional factor to increase your digestion ability is increasing our salt intake. And if you've got salt as an issue because it causes this and that sodium issues, and therefore blood pressure, and therefore heart and all these other things, issues, there are ways around it. Digestive enzyme working in digestive enzyme intake as a supplement will sort some of that. And I would suggest working with your doctor if you've got high blood pressure, but they're not going to understand, you see. AI will say consult your physician, but if your physician is got a pot belly, bald, grey, wrinkly, and even smoking, well, smoking is probably number 11. It's probably number 11, I'd say, because let's face it, there's more 80-year-old smokers out there than 50-year-olds dying of emphysema and lung cancer and whatnot. And for those drinking, smoking, and drug-taking people out there, chronic deficiency in all those micronutrients, that's what's leading to our obesity. So number 3 is quite heavy, but number 2 and number 1 with the absorption and then the digestion. So increase your salt a lot. And Doc Wallach, where I get most of my methodology from, should have won at least 5 or 6 Nobel Peace Prizes himself. Would suggest salt to taste and then triple it, which isn't that much of a more, because people are very conservative with their salt. I'm very, very liberal, very liberal. I've referenced in the past up to 3 ounces a day, 3 ounces of salt per day in my 2 dishes, in my 2 meals that I have. So, 40, 45 grams per meal. I'm trying to, surely I'm not getting 40. I'll estimate an ounce each meal, so 2 ounces a day. I'm not sure how I got my 3 ounces many hundreds of episodes ago, but it's at least 2 ounces. Yes. So there's the top 5, okay? There is a top 10. You could go for top 20 as well, but how about other considerations? Should I sum up with other things to think about? I did have a thought before. Has it escaped me? What else we should think about? Nah, look, I'll just wrap up there, okay? Sorry to tease you so much in my wrap up, but there you go. So a quick top 5. Most important, digestion. Don't drink 30 minutes before, 90 minutes after. Increase salt intake. Absorption. Recuperate the villi in our small intestine by stopping all grains, I suggest, but also certainly for sure the glutens, wheat, barley, rye, oats, and buckwheat perhaps. Number 3, get that dependable daily supply of the micronutrients we need to supplement. I go through longevity. They understand this whole thing. Number 4, cholesterol. Number 5, more sunlight to get our circadian rhythm in check. Many will challenge 4 and 5 with drinking, smoking, perhaps, all those sort of things, lack of exercise. Exercise. Number 12, number 15, in there somewhere. Okay? That's the idea there. So, thanks for entertaining my top 5 thoughts and beyond. Hopefully, you'll come back next time. Bye-bye.